Hello ballers, it's Preacher. As we've announced a few times on the stream, we're going to be playing some Neocron 2 during WoW downtime and a couple of off days in between leveling characters for my live stream February. I just assume this is a little primer for those of you who are going to be playing this with us. There's quite a lot of you that are going to join in with us, which is awesome. But of course, you kind of, when you're facing a new MMO, you really want to know what the hell you're getting into. Neocron is an FPS MMO. There's lots of PvP action. It's mainly revolving around PvP, but it is still an open world MMO with a lot of PvE involved. It's much more brutal than World of Warcraft. You're going to find yourself losing items, being ganked by people, but also going around in a big party of us guys, also doing the ganking and also taking away from other players. So as such, this is a quick primer for what you need to do in order to play. The link to download the game is below, so go ahead and do that if you want to join in with us, or you want to check it out or join the clan at a later date. We will be setting up a clan of all the ballers so you guys can get involved in one form or another. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into the classes. There are 4 classes in Neocron, and it basically revolves around the 5 main stats in the game. Those are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intellect, and Psionic Power, okay? So your 4 classes are going to get 2 of the 5 that they can level to a level 100. Everything else suffers in one form or another in order to balance the classes out. Firstly, the Psionic Monk, or the Monk class. These will be referred to in 2 different ways, either an APU, which is an aggressive Psi user, or a PPU, which is a passive Psi user. The PPU I'll start with first. The PPU is essentially the healer, the #1 healer in the game. Other classes can heal in one form or another, but generally just heal themselves. Psi Monks gain maximum benefit of intellect and psionic power, as you might expect. They're very smart and can use spells very, very effectively. A PPU will focus heavily into being a buffer and debuffer. They can cast things like shields, resurrect people, that kind of thing, and are generally invincible on their own, but of course their main use is to be able to keep themselves alive and heal other people. This isn't FPS. You point at your characters and you click those heals. You select them like you would a gun, which means you can also heal the enemy if you do it wrong. And the heals that come from a PPU are very, very strong indeed. Due to the fact that they can have intellect, they can also skill into the other things that I'll talk about later. The APU is the much more aggressive one, the spellcaster. You might want to think of it as a mage or a warlock in one form or another, but essentially they are the glass cannons. Be aware they're not that effective in PvP just now in the current state of the game, but they do things like call lightning from the sky, fire, poison, all these kind of things, and generally are very, very nasty. The downsides of playing a Psi Monk is they are very weak with strength. They have medium dexterity, which means they can be a little bit slower than other classes. Your dexterity is kind of agility, giving you the speed to run here and there, and your constitution is very low. Your constitution is your ability to absorb damage, okay? That's your resistance to damage and your amount of body health. So physically, they're rather weak. They can be a little bit slower, but they make up for that in the fact they have very, very powerful spells. The next class is the Tank. Okay, the Tank is the big, dumb, strength-wielding class that we love. The heavy, if you're playing it compared to TF2, something like that. They have maximum amounts of strength and maximum amounts of constitution, which means they can be very, very robust. They can take missiles to the face without much trouble and do very well from that. They actually have reasonably high dexterity as well, making them reasonably fast. Now, they suffer in both intellect and psionic energy, which means they struggle a little bit with doing any sort of trade skills, and also the lack of psionic energy means they can't really do very well with healing each other. Their heals are limited basically to the rank 1 heal, which is enough to sort of tide you over while leveling. Every single class can level by themselves very, very easily, but the lack of psionic energy does mean that they are limited to a basic heal and make up for that in the fact that they can absorb massive amounts of damage without actually taking very little body health off, which is pretty cool. The Tank's ultimate role is to use things like big heavy cannons, Gatling guns, flamethrowers, rocket launchers, all those kinds of big, dumpy, big heavy hitting weapons, and they generally soak up all the damage. Very, very cool. The other class is the Spy. The Spy has very high dexterity and very high intellect. They suffer a little bit in strength. They suffer a lot in constitution. The Spy is extremely fast, extremely mobile, but designed not really to take many hits. And they also have a reasonable amount of psionic energy, giving them the chance to do some heals and some shields on themselves. But again, they are based around the idea of not really getting hit. And their main role's endgame is to either be selected into one of the main weapon types, which will be rifles, sniper rifles, and so on. Pistols, especially high-tech pistols. They are very able to use very high-tech weaponry, such as powered laser guns, things like that. And also the ability to stealth. The Spy can stealth in and out of fights, in combat. They can disappear off the screen, reappear in other places, and do some big damage. They are also the only class that can take advantage of drones. Drones are the ability to hide your character somewhere on the map and spawn a drone, which will fly out, an automated drone. It changes your interface, so you are a drone. You fly around, you can machine gun people, you can kamikaze into people. Just be aware that your body is extremely vulnerable. If anybody does find your character while you are droning, you will be completely unaware that you are actually getting your ass kicked. The fourth class is the Private Eye, the Jack of all trades, master of none. This one doesn't ever max any of its main talents. It doesn't have any of the 5 main stats that go up to 100. What this does allow you to do, though, is be quite robust overall. It has a reasonable amount of strength, a reasonable amount of dex, a reasonable amount of constitution, a reasonable amount of intellect, and a reasonable psionic level, which means you can't really use the very, very top-end weaponry, the big super powerful stuff, but what you more than make up for is the fact that you can heal yourself very effectively, and you can also be very robust with a high constitution. So those are your 4 main classes. There's the 4 classes you can choose from. I hope one of them actually appeals to you, which is pretty cool. A quick overview of when you start the game, okay? Make sure you patch the game up. And when we start the game, you will have the choice of a job. Don't worry about that too much. That's going to try and preempt where you put your points, okay? But you can respec your talent tree before you confirm your character. I generally recommend that you kind of leave it as is. Just make sure that when you come to your weapon proficiencies that you really max out the one that seems to be the highest, and don't try and split your talents too early on. It's nothing major that you need to do with that at all. Don't worry about it. It's going to ask you to be things like field medics. That'll obviously point you towards a PPU. Some of the jobs do not allow you to pick certain classes. So if you pick soldier, you're obviously going to get chosen to pick the tank class, but you will not be able to pick the psionic monk class. So just bear that in mind. You'll see other jobs there like driver, hacker, things like that. These are the other off-spec stuff that can go on in the game. There are very, very many professions in this game, and lots of people have alts that actually are pure trade skillers, okay? Trade skillers. There are various trade skills such as hacking, poking, the ability to research, the ability to construct. All the weapons and epic weaponry in Neocron is constructed by players. There is nothing that is dropped. You literally have to build it yourself, and you have to research the plans to build it, and this requires a lot of intellect. Generally, this falls to the idea of spies. So you want spies to be able to do this. They have the required intellect levels in order to be a DPSer and a researcher, DPSer and a constructor, and so on and so forth. They have the extra intellect points to allow them to do that. Poking is the ability to put implants into other people. In this game, you have implants that go into your head. Those need to be implanted by another player. That act is called poking. And there'll be generally pokers floating around left and right, so it's not a major deal. Don't worry about it. Hacking is the other ability that also requires quite high intellect, which is why tanks and so on don't generally make good trade stillers. What you'll have here is the hacking ability not only allows you to access a different part of the game called Hacknet. It's not very impressive, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it does allow you to do things like hack bases. We do conquer bases. That is the main aim of the game, is for us to take over the entire map. It belongs to certain people once you've taken it. That requires hackers. It requires 4 in total to hack the various layers of the base and secure it as yours. Hacking also allows you to access people's belts. When you kill an enemy, they will drop a belt on the floor that contains randomly one of their items. This can be anything except anything that is in slot 1 on your actual action bar. Anything in slot 1 is safe. Everything else, including your armor and your implants, are available to drop to the enemy should you be killed. Then a hacker can come along and hack your belt, You'll find out lots more about this if you play the game. Hack the belt and take your item from you. If you are quick enough to get back to your own belt and recover your items, then you are fine before a hacker can do that. But it is the hackers who will go around and they will hack your belts, and they will also hack your bases, those kind of things. Hackers are generally in quite high demand, and that also requires quite high intellect. So you tend to find these Psymonks and the spies tend to always have some sort of hacking ability with them. That doesn't mean you need to do that. You are very, very, very well welcome to go ahead and spec fully into weaponry and be better at your weapons. This is a very basic guide, just to get you started of various things that are going to happen in the game. Don't panic, lots of people are going to be relearning. I haven't personally played this game for a long time, which means there's going to be a ton of stuff I'm not aware of either. I just wanted to make you aware of the classes and things that might be of interest to you. Again, the Psymonks can be aggressive, are healers. The healers are generally Psymonks. The tanks are the guys who are going to carry the big weaponry and take a lot of the damage. You can also be a melee tank, by the way. You can use things like swords, claws, things like that. Chase people around and tear them a new arsehole, that's fine. The spies, the weaker in terms of taking damage, but definitely dish out a ton of damage via rifles, sniper rifles, or drones, and pistols as well. And the private eye, the jack of all trades, he's pretty good at all things, and he's a very, very sturdy character, able to take decent damage while also delivering decent damage. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright guys, that's the basic overview, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take it easy, ballers.